are getting together to talk because we're both fitness professionals. We're both close friends, but it's kind of great to get together and talk about some of the questions that we get asked a lot, especially because sometimes we might have a different point of view on things and different reasoning. And so it's always cool to listen to different sides of the spectrum. Just because people do different things different ways doesn't necessarily mean they're wrong ever. They just have maybe an ultimate different goal or a different way of going about things. Basically, everybody can paint a picture the same way if they want, and they may take different steps to get there. And so we're going to talk about some of ours today.
Yay! So one of the questions that Connie and I both get a lot, and I think it's one of the most commonly asked questions for anybody in the fitness industry, is how much cardio should I be doing? And for competitors, that's going to be a different answer than somebody whose lifestyle, right? So doctors will always recommend 30 minutes, 5 days a week, and that's purely just for cardiovascular health. But the amount of cardio that you should be doing differs on person to person and body type to body type. So if you're somebody who's super ectomorphic, meaning you naturally hold a very low body fat percentage, have a hard time building muscle, and you're naturally pretty lean, you're not going to want to do a lot of cardio, especially if you're trying to build muscle, because it kind of defeats the purpose. For someone who's endomorphic, meaning you carry naturally like a higher body fat percentage, are a little bit bulkier in structure, maybe even have a hard time gaining muscle too, you're going to want to do more cardio than somebody who's kind of right down the middle, mesomorphic, and it's a sliding scale too. But like, okay, Connie, how much cardio do you do in your off season versus your prep?
I try to choose zero. Zero. And just for me personally, and what I've learned about my body is the way that I respond. And this is why, everybody works differently. And that's the benefit of hiring a good coach, is because they're going to learn your body and see how you function the best.
Yep.
And I've kind of gone all ways, right? So I've gone cardio whole off season, stay lean. But then when I jump into prep, I don't lose as much as I need to lose because my body is just so used to doing cardio that it's just like, oh, what's this?
Right.
And so basically for me, that led into my last contest prep, doing so much cardio in the off season, led to doing hours of cardio when I was in prep. So that's definitely something I try to mitigate in the off season for myself.
Yeah. And I'm the same way. I prefer to do zero cardio, apart from like, for myself, I like to get up and go for walks in the morning. I don't really consider that cardio. When I think of cardio, I think like dying on the Stairmaster. But for in the off season, I don't like doing cardio at all. So the cardio that I do is really, really like slow, steady state cardio, more just for endorphins and like mental health. And in the off season, this last prep that got screwed up because of coronavirus, I was doing 2 hours of cardio a day just because that was, I know, it was rough. It's going to be rough. But like for the average person, for somebody like, because I get a lot from clients, and I do mostly lifestyle clients, and people ask all the time, how much cardio should I be doing? And what I say is, if it's somebody who's, generally when people come to me ask that question, they're overweight. So if I say see somebody who's overweight, I'm going to recommend that they do at least 30 minutes, 4 or 5 times a week. That's a good starting point. I really do think so. And not running. I would never recommend running unless you're.
Me neither.
Yeah.
I think running is definitely not going to be helpful in people achieving their weight loss goals.
Nope.
I don't know how you feel about it, but whenever people are like, I've been running for like every day for like miles and miles, and I've only lost so many pounds, that's like a story that I've heard over and over again.
Yep.
And I want to be like, well, that's not the answer, sister.
Yeah. Well, and like, yes, I've heard that too. I'm actually recently had a girl come to me she was running 3 miles a day, and she was doing spin classes and like some resistance, like Pilates, really light resistance training, but she was not losing any weight. And I said, well, the reason being is because you are running, you're doing way too much cardio, first of all, and you're getting skinny fat. You're wasting weight, really. And that's like, first of all, I'm opposed to running for 2 reasons. One, it's hard on your body. It's hard on your knees and joints, especially if you're out there running on a sidewalk, which most of us are, or a treadmill even. And 2, because running has, other than the strengthening the cardiovascular system for fat loss or for body recomping, I don't think it's effective. It's not, you know. Like
Right.
I would much more recommend somebody do like spin bike or stair climber or even incline walking on the treadmill. Those are way more effective and hit if
Mm-hmm.
you're really ballsy, which I hate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and see, with me, it kind of, obviously it always depends on the client, right?
Yeah.
So for me, like if I have a new client that's coming on that's not, familiar with fitness,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I will move it into like a 3-day-a-week full body workouts 3 days a week so that they are attainable, because what a lot of people do is they jump right into this fitness program and then they totally fizzle out and die because it's so much that they get overwhelmed and they'll be going all in, and then when they miss one day they're like, I'm done,
Yeah.
So
No.
I've moved into doing 3 days a week of a full body workout, and then in between sets we do some kind of plyometrics, like to keep our heart rate elevated. So we'll do some kind of like wall sits, planks, something that's going to keep us engaged in between sets. And then the days off, I recommend 30 minutes of low intensity cardio, steady state walking, incline walking, go for a hike, walk your dogs, I don't care. And then once they start to get familiar with the gym and we need to move beyond that, then I start looking at different modalities to kind of do some cardio without getting extreme and doing hours every day, basically.
Yeah. And for somebody who wants to just, competing is a different animal, but for like a lifestyle client or somebody who's just looking to get in shape, I think that's totally fair. And I have quite a few clients on really, really similar splits where it's a full body day, 3, even sometimes 4 days a week. And you alternate. Sometimes I'll alternate like a high volume day, like a little bit easier day, and throw in some accessory stuff. And then on their off days, they do, like, especially people in the Northwest, I have them go hiking, for 30 minutes to an hour just to get outside and get some cardio. Yeah, it works. And I have some clients too. I think like a progression from that is I'll do like a upper lower, like a push pull lower split and alternate the days, and then in between they do like a metcon or plyometrics or something. Even Tabata is great cardio too, especially for now, people being stuck at home. Tabata is a really great strength training and cardio kind of all in one, and it's not a lot of like plyometric stuff can be, especially for women, because I know I pee when I jump around a lot. Especially moms, I know they have the issues, and Tabata is really good for that because it doesn't, you're not going to worry about peeing your pants.
And that's so funny. I have a friend that always wants me to go to CrossFit with her, and I'll go, and it's like all this jump rope and crap. I don't know how I've got 2 kids. I don't know about you pups here that don't have kids, but jumping
I
rope
don't,
is
and
like,
I pee myself.
So it's like, no. So, and honestly, I guess I would be the traditional meathead in the thinking that I just want to lift. I think lifting is more metabolically healthy for you.
Absolutely.
You're burning calories all day then. It's hormonally healthy for you. It's great for your bone density. And I just try to push people more towards lifting because there's such a common misnomer out there that in order to get skinny, you have to go out and do hours of cardio, which is absolutely incorrect.
It is. It's the opposite, actually, for most people. And the one thing too, I think many people don't understand is lifting. And one, you're not going to get bulky lifting regardless, ever. So don't ever worry about that. But when you weight train or do any kind of resistance training, you're burning calories while you're doing that activity, but you're burning calories, like you said, the whole day, as opposed to cardio. During the time that you're doing cardio is the time that you're burning calories. After that, no. And strength training, you're burning calories during your strength training, but you're also burning calories throughout the day because your body is taking more energy to repair the muscles that you just broke down. So to me, it's more effective. And I would rather lift weights a lot faster and call it cardio than pay myself and do hours of cardio a day and look, skinny fat and kind of jiggly, and because that's the result of that. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then also, let's be honest, a lot of this world is in a big rat race, right? And time is definitely a huge limiting factor when you're speaking with clients about, what's holding them back from achieving their fitness goals. And so I think that, definitely throwing in a couple of HIIT workouts here and there is never a hurt either, because they're still lifting something. I definitely like to go with like lifting type HIIT workouts, things that keep your blood pumping, so you're getting in a little lift there, but it's technically a cardio day.
Right. Yeah. You get kind of like the best of both worlds.
Mm-hmm. And then, also that's great for building your type 2 muscle fibers, a lot of people, when they start lifting heavy, they start neglecting those fast twitch movements. Right. And those are actually important to building as well. So I think that's something that should definitely be incorporated every once in a while.
100%. I agree. And they'll strengthen your compound lifts too when you train those type 2 muscle fibers also. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Awesome. So now as far as competitors go, though, in the off season, rather than just our regular lifestyle clients, for our competitors, what do you like to do for cardio?
Well, it depends on the person. Most of them, well, it's not true. Most of them are doing under 20 minutes a day, and that's like 4 or 5 days a week. Some of them are doing none, because some of them can get away with it metabolically just because of their body type. And I think the most endomorphic person I've ever had, I had her doing 15 minutes, 3 days a week. And that was just to keep, minimize fat gain when she was trying to build, and to keep up cardiovascular health too. Because cardio serves 2 purposes. One is for, it's a tool for fat loss, but it's also for your health too. I don't think, if you're neglecting your cardio all year round, your cardiovascular, that's what that means. The cardiovascular system is going to suffer, and you won't be as effective on your lifts either. So I think it's important to incorporate a little bit, even just walking outside just for sanity purposes. But yeah.
I would agree with that. And I'm not against cardio at all. Like, I do think that people should be doing at a minimal 20 minutes, 3 to 4 times a week. Like you said, for cardiovascular health alone. Right. I think that's definitely healthy, and it's definitely an achievable goal. Even if you go for a walk on your rest day, honestly, just something low impact, maybe get your blood pumping a little, use your arms too when you're walking, and just get things moving, because that's really important.
Yeah. Blood flow is life, you can't sit around all day, even if you're lifting weights. There's something about aerobic exercise that's so good, especially for your brain. Your brain loves that shit.
Yeah. Well, but there is a shift there, and that's what a lot of people also don't realize. These people that are doing hours and hours of cardio, is that's also a form of stress on your body, right? So, a lot of these people also that are trying to lose, they're going and doing these hours of cardio, and then their body is stressed out, and they're releasing all this cortisol, and then it's hanging on to everything it's got because you're in this stressed out state.
Yeah, so, especially if you're dieting, or if this happens a lot. Like when you do keto and then you start running miles a day, stress. And that can lead to a lot of problems, hormonally speaking. It's really, really common to see exercise-induced, like losing your period. I forget the name.
Amenorrhea.
Thank you. Yes.
You're welcome.
Yes. You're such a smart person. That's really common too. When, especially like a woman is dieting for a long period of time and then running 3 or 4 miles a day, and that's not healthy, really. That comes down to it.
Right, because your body uses food for fuel. If you're not putting that in, it's like trying to drive around on an empty gas tank.
Right, now, especially carbs.
Right, and our body is a big time gas tank, right? So it's like we need all this fuel, and when we're not using it, I mean, it's able to get around it and still exist, but it's going to start shutting off other processes that are really important. Your cycle being one of them. Other things is just your non-exercise activity that you're doing, like just when you're moving or talking with your hands, your body actually will reduce that stuff without you even knowing it.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Weird. Body's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know that happens. And it's funny because I've seen that with my own experiences in contest prep, when you start to feel like a sloth towards the end, because it's like,
your body feels heavy and you're like
so heavy
down all the time. Yeah. You don't feel light and energetic by any means, but so go ahead.
I was going to say, so here's another good little thing that we could touch on, especially because you brought up running and keto. When people are exercising, and it's going to depend on what point in their journey they're at, whether they're prepping for a show, whether they're running for endurance or doing cardio for endurance, there's a lot of different factors here. But when you are having people do cardio, where do you recommend their heart rate is?
I never recommend a heart rate target zone, to be honest with you, just because most of my clients don't have the tools to do that, and I don't trust any of the equipment, like the handlebars at the gym, because they're super inaccurate. So unless you have like a true like heart rate monitor that sits underneath your diaphragm, there's no real way of knowing. But like through experience in the past, I mean, above 160 for cardio, like one no lower than 130 if you're doing steady state. 130 is like anything above that. You know, you don't want to get up to when you're doing HIIT, obviously it's going to be a lot higher, but 130 is like the minimum. If you're below that, and then I don't know, I would say most of the cardio that I recommend people do, and just because like ease of access and ease of because it's abundant, is like treadmill and either cycle or stair climber. But treadmill, incline walking on the treadmill, I usually give incline percentage, because I know if you're not holding onto those handles, which you shouldn't be if you're doing that, if I know that you're on the 15 or 12 to 15% incline, and you're not holding the handles, and you're walking like at a 2.8 mile per hour speed, you're going to be good. You know, that's some pretty hard cardio. So that's usually, that's like my go-to right there, just because I know that it works, and because I don't trust the machines.
And see, I'm kind of on a different take. You're burning most of your fat at around 130 beats a minute is when the fat oxidation actually happens. And so, and then the human race in particular is like really carb dependent. They eat a lot of carbs, and so their body is used to processing a lot of carbs. And so a lot of people train better. They get more energy. They're burning off carbohydrates and energy, muscle glycogen, when they're exercising at over 130 beats a minute. So I try to get my clients to stay at around 130 beats a minute, so they're in that kind of fat oxidation area there. And then this is what I've noticed, if they don't have a heart rate monitor, is if you can breathe through your nose, it's getting difficult, but you can breathe through your nose, you're at about 130 beats a minute. Which is crazy sauce, but I've tried it. If you can breathe through your nose, you're going to be breathing heavy, but if you can still breathe through your nose, you're at about 130 beats a minute. But once you have to start opening your mouth, you are exceeding that threshold. And so you're actually, so you're actually like, then you have to actually start breathing through your mouth once you have reached that threshold, that ventilatory threshold. So you'll notice when they do like the talk tests and stuff like that for when you do them for clients, that's one of the things is talking, but the other thing is breathing through your nose. So I tell people, go as hard as you can, but still being able to breathe with your mouth shut through your nose.
Interesting.
And it works pretty well. So now you'll have to experiment with your heart rate.
I'm going to add that tool to my toolbox.
That's what we're here for, right?
Right?
So,
wow. Okay.
Cool.
That's awesome.
So another common question that pops up all the time is how many calories should I be eating?
Speaking of fat loss, yes.
Yeah.
So how do you, when you're, after you get all the information that you need from your client, how do you calculate where your client's maintenance calories are? And then how do you know, because I want to know what your methods are, then I'll tell you later. How do you know how aggressive of a deficit to be in, and what does that look like when you're doing your plan?
Yeah, this is heavily dependent on the person for me.
Yeah.
I don't believe, and this is probably against some of the stuff that I was taught in school too. I don't believe that you just look at a equation and you figure out what somebody's calories should be, because we are around the same height, you and I.
Yeah.
We're going to eat a substantially different amount of calories, but the book is going to say that we need to eat the same.
Yes.
So what I like to do personally is I have the person take photos of their food. I don't have them journal it because so many people forget to write stuff down, but just every time they're putting something in their mouth, I have them take a photo of it. Oh. And then I have them write it down so that then we can see if there's any discrepancies there, and then also see what their perception of the size of the meal is.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are like, oh, I only had 4 ounces of steak.
And you're like,
when
that's 8.
It's like a 12 ouncer, And so I like to first look into what people are eating. I think it's important to know where they're at currently. And then also find out if at that particular spot, like if they're a new client, it's pretty easy, right? If there's somebody that's not ever worked out and they're just now starting their journey, it's really easy to know, okay, obviously, how long have you been sitting at this weight? Do you think that it's gone up or down? Yeah. If they have been sitting at the same weight on that amount of calories for a certain amount of time, then I hate to reduce it too much, know. If they're at like some astronomical amount of calories, though, like 5,000 calories or something, we're going to cut it pretty large. We're definitely going to move it down to about 2,000 calories, I would say, because I think that's a healthy place to start. And that puts you in a good weight loss zone, especially if your body is accustomed to eating 5,000 calories, for example. Yeah. So I kind of start there. Because I think the more weight you can lose on high calories, the bigger the chance of making it a lifestyle it is for somebody, rather than just chopping things off right off the block. The person is hungry. They're accustomed to eating so much more, and then they're going to be binging on things.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and the thing too is, when you have someone who's a lifestyle client, you have to make it a lifestyle. And if you cut them too short or too much, like you said, they're going to rebound, but they're going to stop progressing eventually, because the key to weight loss is slowly cutting things down little by little and staying one step ahead of the body. So if you cut things down too short, and this is a really, really common problem. In fact, I would say upwards of 70% of the people that I've coached, women especially, are eating too little when they come to me because they were on a diet, right? Like between 700 and 900 calories usually. And then they stop losing weight because the body does really hold on to everything. So you kind of have to start them higher. So what I do when I have a new client, I always get pictures first, right? I ask for blood work if they're comfortable, so I know that there's no weird hormonal crap going on. But I will, and I do ask for food logs too. But I like the idea of taking pictures, because I think that that could be pretty truth revealing.
Well, and not to interrupt you, but so this is so hilarious. I was at lunch with a friend, and she was like, what do you think this waffle is probably only like 300 calories, right? And it was like chicken and waffles. And I was like, no, that's like 1,200 calories. So that goes to show you, like, most people that aren't used to tracking their food, and they're not used to like paying attention to what things are, they have no idea. They're like, oh, that's like a couple ounces, right? So
yeah, exactly.
Right. So you have people do a food log.
Yeah, usually, yeah. I'll do like MyFitnessPal, and I'll just have them send me screenshots for like 2 days worth, just like what an average day looks like. And I go and I ask for that fully, well knowing that that's probably not accurate. But
Mm-hmm.
it's just a kind of a good way to hold them accountable and to see, how off base they are with what they know about their food. But so what I do, and this is something that I actually learned from Matt Meanwhile, is I will look at their pictures and estimate their body fat percentage. And for somebody who's like a newer coach or newer in the fitness industry, I wouldn't recommend this because visually estimating a body fat percentage is kind of hard. It's like you have to be a little bit experienced in that field to really nail it down. And if you're a couple percent off, it doesn't make that big of a difference. But so I'll estimate their body fat percentage, and then with their weight, I'll figure out their lean body mass. I take their lean body mass and I multiply it by a range. So usually I'm like for like a more petite woman or like maybe like a middle-aged woman, I will multiply that by 14 to get their maintenance calories.
Mm-hmm.
For like a 20-something-year-old ectomorphic male, I mean, it can be upwards of 22, 24 that I multiply that by, to get their maintenance. Mm-hmm. And then from there, I actually start people at their maintenance. And then I give it usually 2 weeks because in my experience, it takes about 2 weeks for the body to kind of respond and recognize what's going on and to catch up metabolically, unless there's like obviously some other underlying issue hormonally, but usually about 2 weeks, 14, 15 days. And then we figure out kind of where the body is going to meet us at that maintenance calories. And then I'll slowly start. Not always. I usually cut carbs first, little by little by little, but it's over the course of weeks. So it's just a different tool, and,
Mm-hmm.
For somebody who's brand new, to a weight loss journey, and because macros are confusing, especially when you're first starting out. I mean, they're confusing and they're hard to track, and you never know what's what, especially in an app, because, it could be dry measured rice, it could be cooked rice, it could be uncooked meat, or it could be cooked meat, and you don't really know what is what, and it does make a big difference. So
Mm-hmm.
I think, there's tons of calculators online, and there's a couple of them like Macros Inc. has, for lifestyle stuff, I think that they do a decent job. One thing I have noticed though is I never follow the body type rule for percentages of like what macros to recommend, like 30%, for certain people, and like 25, 30, blah, blah, blah. I hardly ever follow those percentage guidelines because I don't find that they are useful in creating an ideal physique. I think that for health, they might be okay, but 100% of the time, I think that the protein is way too low.
Oh, most certainly. And, I find that in most any kind of online plan that you go on to, the protein is like crazy low. And,
even like in school, like they teach us, protein is like what, 0.8 gram per kilogram of body weight. And I always go like 1.5 grams per pound of body weight or more usually. Right. I like to hover around the point before the body, the gluconeogenesis, using protein for like a glycogen, but hover at that point where it's not using the protein for energy source, but still can utilize and absorb it. And that's kind of a difficult point to find. But if you play around with the body enough and your client is trustworthy and patient enough, that's where I think that most people, especially if you're strength training, that's where most people should be with their protein pretty high.
I definitely usually fall around a gram per pound of body weight too. I mean, but I try to figure it off of like what the person's lean mass probably is. Yep. I'm not opposed to looking at somebody and being like, okay, you probably are around this area. Yeah. And I think that's a pretty good gauge for how much protein should be consumed. I mean, because let's be honest, food itself in particular is not perfect, right? So a calorie of sweet potato versus a calorie of rice is 2 totally different calories. And that's kind of why I get a little opposed to counting calories even when it comes to certain things. Yeah. And so, and the thing is in general, if you're just a normal person and you're not a competitor, like your lifestyle clients and things like that, when they come to you, you're going to probably reducing the amount of food or giving them more. I mean, there's a different balance there.
Yeah.
But you're more than likely going to be changing their food, and then you're going to be adding some exercise on top of that. And typically you can get results without starving people.
Oh yeah. Really, like you just said, I think you summarized this. There's no like secret to fitness. Really, if you reduce your food and increase your exercise, like that's the recipe. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's it. It's not hard.
Right. On the flip side, though, some people think if they reduce their food entirely, what is the saying? It's eat less and move more.
Yeah.
And in the words of Brian Sanders, who was on my podcast, he's like, that doesn't make any sense, really, because eventually you're going to end up with an empty checking account, and you don't want that either.
Yeah, so, that is very true. That's true.
So there has to be this balance that happens there, though, and that's something as a dieter in general, with or without a coach, if you're going about this on your own, you need to keep in mind your body is meant to function on calories, and it can only give you so much back if you aren't giving it something. So giving it 0 calories or 700 calories a day and then going out and exercising and doing hours of cardio is going to look bad on pretty much anybody.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I agree. I made that mistake when I first started too. Like, I knew nothing when I started. So I tracked my food, and then my phone tracked my energy expenditure. And so I thought you had to be in a deficit. Like I kind of understood the concept of a calorie deficit, but I'm like, okay, well, I'm only burning, 800 calories a day in exercise. So I have to eat 700 calories a day to be in a deficit. Right? That was the logic. And I think that's a lot of people fall into that because it's like you kind of know, but you don't quite get the full concept. Right? And so I was eating like 700 calories a day and exercising so that I was in a deficit. Well, I didn't know about NEAT. I didn't know about, your TDEE. I didn't know any of that. I didn't realize logically. I didn't realize that you burn calories just like existing, breathing.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't take that into consideration. So it's really interesting. And then I hired my first coach. This is like back in 2011. And she started me on like, I think it was like 1,900 calories. And I'm a like little person. Yeah.
And you were like,
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh my God. And I was like, okay, I hired you. I paid you money. I trust you, which is, I think everybody should do. And I did my research too, but, I was eating so much food the first 2 weeks. And I remember like after every meal, I'm like, I'm so full. I can't eat again. And then this is where the 2-week mark kicks in, like 14, 15 days. Like suddenly after the third meal a day, I'm like, I am ravenous. What happened? Right. And then the next check-in we did, she cut my calories. And it was like, my body went from looking like, I put on like, they say in college, the freshman 15. Okay. I put on like the freshman 30 and I had like the spare tire tummy and, it was not good. I drank a lot of alcohol. But
alcohol alone will give you the spare tire.
Yes,
that's one thing not to segue on your conversation, but that is one thing that I have noticed. It seems like people that drink, even if it's just like one a day, they seem to collect it right in their stomach area.
I think that's cortisol. I mean, we know like cortisol, the cortisol tummy, the teardrop shape around the belly button, right? That's cortisol related. But I think that because alcohol acts as a stimulant at first and then a depressant, like 2 or 3 days following. And I think that I'll have to do more research, but my theory is I think that alcohol stimulates more cortisol release in the body. And I think that's why it gathers in the midsection. Because that's true. Like you look at any male, like middle-aged male who's been drinking for 20 years, he looks pregnant. He's got like that pregnant belly and it's like rock hard. That's alcohol belly, and a lot of that fat too, that's brown fat. That's not visceral fat. That's like, it's really weird.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then the other thing you have to take into consideration with that as well is like alcohol is so disturbing on the gut alone.
Yeah.
So it's like I saw a guy walking across the parking lot the other day and I was just like, oh man, it just, the bloating was so crazy that I was like, oh my gosh, I would sure like to help this person.
Right? Yeah.
You know, I
Yeah.
was just thinking, gosh, he's got to be in pain because I know if I get bloated, I'm just like, ow,
Oh, you're
this is a
miserable.
killer. How
Yes.
do you live like this all the time?
I know. I know. And well, everything in moderation. Like I do love a glass of wine every now and then, but
Right.
every day or like the bottle, that's a little different. Plus when you have alcohol in your system, you can't oxidize fat. So the body has to process alcohol before it can tap into your fat stores. So like you rationally you can't think like, okay, well I had a glass of wine, an hour ago. I'll go work it off on the bike at home. Well, your body's still processing the alcohol, so you're not gonna burn any fat. Like,
Right.
yeah,
Well, and then you have your people that are good all week, right? But then they go on the weekends and
the
they go out
bingers. Yep,
and they drink a lot,
yep.
and usually I don't know about you, but anytime I've ever gone out and drank, which is not frequent, but when I do,
Yeah.
I want to eat like tacos when I get home or on my way home or like I
Munchies
get
are
home and I'm
real.
like, oh,
Yeah.
and so then that's like adding insult to injury, right?
Yeah, you just chalk that day up and let it go. Like, don't even try to be good.
Awesome.
Uh,
Well, so anything else that we have missed here as far as the calories go?
I don't think so. I mean, you know, you and I both, I'm sure you do get a lot of questions, and those are truly the most common questions. But in the end, there's no general like recipe or guideline. Everybody is going to be different. So when you ask, how much cardio should I be doing, unless you really like talk to a coach and send pictures in and they know all your stats and they know your body, there's no like real answer for that. There's no like secret that we're all hiding, to keep you fat. It's different for everybody. So I think my once again top recommendation is to hire somebody at least to teach you the basics of, if you want to know more about macros or portion sizes or cardio or learn your body. Because once you learn your body, it is easy to maintain it and to keep healthy. There's kind of a learning curve, especially in our Western world, with the shit food that we have and lack of exercise, sedentary lifestyle. So learning is really important. And usually, I think it takes a couple months to really get a good grasp on everything. But I feel pretty confident with the people that I send away from coaching and kind of graduate them out, that they understand food and their body well enough to be able to maintain what they've created, the physique that they've created.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then that's the one thing that you and I are very alike with is we want to teach people life skills that they can use. There are a lot of coaches out there that have their secrets and they want to string people along and keep them as long as they possibly can. And I don't really feel that that's right, because you are wanting to help people make sustainable decisions and things that they can use for their life, and so they understand why you're doing these things. So I have no problem when people are asking me questions as to why I'm doing things.
Oh yeah.
At all.
I encourage questions. Because I don't know what my clients do and don't know. So I always encourage, questions are the best way to learn. If you hire a coach, you hire them for a reason. Like, bombard their shit with questions. It doesn't annoy us.
I love it. I'm glad you're invested in knowing what's going on with your body. And then the other thing is there's so many coaches out there. So if you're going to hire a coach, you need to really look at the big picture with it, because transformation photos aren't everything. Right. And that's one thing where I've seen a lot of people go down this bad road is they go and they look at this coach's transformation photos. And of course, you're going to get great results if you put a client on a huge calorie deficit and all this cardio and all this stuff. 6-week transformation, ching, ching. Well, yeah, that can happen. And I can do it. You can do it. We can do it to anybody. But
what we
a real coach.
Yeah. Is there a 6-week transformation after that?
Mhm.
initial 6-week transformation, because that's going to look a lot different.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and you want to look at how long these clients are staying with these coaches and all sorts of things, and talk to them on the phone. I mean, I know you and Matt are great. Like, I know I had contacted Matt at one point, and he chatted with me on the phone, and I was able to get a good feel for him. This was
Yep.
when I very first started competing, and so definitely call them and talk to them. This isn't just a text message relationship.
Yeah.
This is something that we need to ask lots and lots of questions, and don't be ashamed to ask them. And then don't be ashamed to follow up with somebody that does know, that has the same kind of knowledge, and see what they say about that, because it's your body. You got to take care of it.
Exactly. Yep. 100%. I love it.
Awesome.
Well, I hope this was informative or enlightening to some degree. So,
well, and it's always fun chatting with other professionals. I think that's why you and I get along so well. It's fun to hear other people's way of thinking, ways of doing things. And then also just get together and talk with like-minded individuals. To put information out there that can help other people.
Yeah, because that's really why we're in the game.
Yep. You know it.
I love it.
All right. Well, we'll have to do this again with the next subject. So maybe we'll make a post and see what we get out of it. Okay?
Okay.